Good morning. For many people, the name Rosetta Stone is really a brand name for a company that teaches foreign languages. But do you know why they chose that name? Well, there actually is a stone, about 3.5 feet tall, about 2.5 feet wide, about a foot thick. It was discovered in 1799 by Pierre-François Bouchard. It was found in a town near Rosetta. It was the town. And what it was Pierre-François was there in the French army. Napoleon had been moving into Egypt. It was his Egyptian campaign. And Pierre-François was responsible for solidifying Fort Julian. And so while he was trying to do that, they managed to knock down a wall that Lord only knows how long had been there, because he felt that was not in helping to stay for the fort to be safe. But when his workers finally were able to knock down this wall, he was looking at it, and there one stone looked different. He went over and he began to sweep the dirt off of the stone, and as he looked at it, it looked like there was Egyptian hieroglyphics written on top of it. Below that was then a language he had no idea what it was, and below that there was another writing that looked familiar. It turned out it was classical Greek. He looked at it and it was very smooth on one side, and he thought, this looks very important. There's something about this stone, it's just so different. It had been used in helping to build this wall that had been there for hundreds of years, maybe more than 1,000 years. And he happened to see this stone lying in the dirt. Now, at this point in history, people couldn't read Egyptian hieroglyphics. We had no idea what they said or what they meant. The Egyptian language and so much of its history was a mystery. But he saw this stone, and he thought it was important. He called attention to his supervisors. The supervisors thought it was important, so they gathered up this stone that weighed almost a ton, and they took it off to safety. They were going to bring it back home to Paris. But before they could get it taken back home, here came along the British, and the British were fighting the French again, down now in Egypt, and this army had to hole up in Alexandria, and finally they had to surrender. And when they surrendered, the British found this stone, and they too thought, man, somehow this might be important, and so they carted it back off to London, and it is in the British Museum to this day, more than 200 years later. And it was an important stone because the top part was Egyptian hieroglyphics, and then it was this demonic, not negative, but demonic language there in the middle, very unused language, and then it was classical Greek. Because they understood classical Greek, they came to realize that's going to explain the hieroglyphics and what they mean. You see, this had been written in 196 BC. It was written by the priest in order to try to confirm the Ptolemy regime. It was Ptolemy V who had a decree put out, and he had it put out in 3 different languages so all people could read it. This was all saying the same thing, and if you now had the Greek and you understood all the different languages. It opened the mystery of Egyptian hieroglyphics and so much of their culture and history that had been hidden for years, and it happened because of the Rosetta Stone. I couldn't help but think, Easter is our Rosetta Stone that helps us to understand the mysteries of life, to be able to interpret life, and to find a sense of meaning and strength and peace. It is Mary on a Friday when Jesus is crucified and her whole world comes to an end when he dies. You know what that's like if you've ever lost a loved one. And then to walk through the darkness on that Saturday, knowing she was separated from him. And then early in the morning, of first light on that Sunday morning, to move to the tomb and find that the tomb was empty, Now, that moment was going to change her life. Easter became the Rosetta Stone, the thing that helped you to look at life differently, to find something about not being afraid of life or death and knowing a promise of eternal life. You and I, we have a Rosetta Stone, something that helps us to interpret the mystery of life. And you know what I want to say this morning is, in this time when there is so much frustration, anger, fear, when so many people are upset, I just want to remind you, your happiness and all the happiness of the future, your sense of peace and meaning, it doesn't depend upon who's going to win an election. It doesn't depend upon a Supreme Court position being confirmed. Those things are important, but they're not of the ultimate importance for you when you look in the long term of history. What really matters in your life is knowing your Rosetta Stone, knowing Easter, that trust in God's constant love of you, his child. It tells you it really is going to be okay, and that you and I can still live with a spirit of confidence and joy. I hope you go out and have a great day.